goddamn microphone. Can't do a goddamn thing. Because it's the goddamn garage show. All right, switch it over. Boom, 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 boom. Look at that. Lights are green. The traps are clean. Okay. We're not in the garage. Did you notice? I think you did. There's a reason for that. Without getting too dramatically drawn out in the stuff that's going on. Tough day for those of you who've been listening to the live KGXT radio simulcast for the podcast, or you listen to the World Show today. This is our third show of the day. Yes. And we had 24 hours without our studio. My wife and I literally patched everything back together, got everything up and running, did the World Show, did the KGXT broadcast of the podcast, which you guys will get to hear shortly when we get it all done. And we weren't going to do the garage show because it is way too hot in the garage. You guys remember last time we did the garage show, the old boy wasn't doing so well. You remember that? That didn't turn out so well. So, there's a lot of people that said, oh, it's okay. They'll understand. Everyone will understand if you got to miss the show. And I thought, I just can't do it. I mean, if I would have missed tonight's show, not even tried to do a garage show of any kind, I would have felt like shit. I would have felt bad the whole time going, God, people showed up and I wasn't there. I don't know. Maybe it's an old school way of thinking that when you tell somebody you're going to do something, you do everything you can to be there. So we're in studio. We're not in the garage. We're still going to talk shop. We're still going to I just can't do any tests tonight. And really, I don't want to make every garage show about testing equipment. It's just, that's a little bit much. We'll skip around with those. But welcome to the Garage Show. It's broadcasting on Facebook Blue and YouTube. So just YouTube tonight. Nobody went vertical. Nobody went crazy. Just the loyal followers that are here. Just you guys. If you guys are part of the Gen X Talks family, then you'll stick around. And if you don't want to, that's fine. You can move on. This is a garage show without the garage tonight. And that's only because I didn't want to punt on the whole thing. So I'm going to just tell you some car stories from dealership stories, some stories that I did growing up around cars and working on cars for 35 or some years. And it's stuff other mechanics have known. This won't surprise many of you, but some of you it will. And I will answer questions. I got Gen X. Mom is here. Her microphone is on. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
So she's here. If you guys have something to say on Facebook or on YouTube, she's going to copy and paste it and keep it between the sheets. We'll get to her in a little bit. How do I know? Because when my wife is between the sheets, I don't miss. I will find her. I will be there. We will listen. The sheets, for those of you who don't know, that are to my left and to your right, are Google Docs or Google Sheets. Google Sheets is over there. It's open, and staff members put things in the sheets. That way we get to read them later. That way we don't miss some important stuff from you guys. So if you say something important, if you have something to contribute, you have a question, we'll get to you. Especially if you guys do any sort of a donation or something, don't think it fell on deaf ears. No. We'll get to it. So we are live at 6 minutes after 6 Los Angeles time, and this is the Garage Show, not from the garage. All right, Gen X Mom, before I get busy spelling a story out here, what do you got for me over there?
Charles Clark tonight gifted 5 Gen X Talks memberships to Florida Man, Brian Doyle, Captain Cal, Ink Slave 13, and Ossifer 11.
Ossifer?
Yes. Kelly Dix on Facebook wants to know, how is Gen X Mom doing? I'm here. I'm hanging in there.
I didn't think she was going to show up. I told all the staff, because of all the effort everybody's been putting in and how big today was, I said, nobody has to show up to the show. They're all around the country, and they have to stop their family time and join in. So I was just going to do this by myself. And I didn't even tell my wife, and she decided to show up. So props to her. Gen X Mom.
Johnny O on Facebook, if you could have any car from any time when the price doesn't matter, what car would you get?
Well, my favorite car that I'd like to own, assuming that my fat ass could fit in it, which it can't right now, but at some point, I would like a 1967 AC Cobra with a 429 Super Cobra jet engine, Pacific blue with white stripes and tan leather interior. Not that I've thought about it. I want you to know I'm sort of indifferent to that car. Yeah, that would be the car. I wouldn't even let my wife in that car. No, nobody's riding that but me. That's a me thing. But there's other vehicles that I would like to have too. I get stuck on some vehicles that nobody wants, that nobody likes. Oh, those were junk. Those were garbage. I'd like an early 70s Dodge Power Ram 4x4. You don't see many of those in movies or TV. Simon and Simon had one, but a little old. I think it was 80s. But I just liked those. I was attracted to those power wagons, mid 70s. Yes, Gen X mom.
Firewood Art, member for 6 months on YouTube. 2013 Tacoma heater cooling fan only working on high speed. Ideas?
Yeah, the resistor's gone. There's a step down resistor, and when you have it on high, when you have your blower motor on high, you're getting full ground and full power. And the selector switch drops down either your ground side or your power side. They can work on both cars, but a lot of them are power. So you get, low 4 volts, 8 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts. That's your power up, and your fan spins faster. There's a straight through. When those resistors go bad, the straight through is just the only one that works is the high speed. That's the one that goes straight through, and the other ones drop down. So a lot of times when you only have high, it's either the switch or it's that resistor. But most of the time on older cars, now 2013, you're getting into vehicles right when I was quitting working on cars. But the switch or that resistor, but the resistor is usually really easy to get to and inexpensive. So I pop one of those, and if it didn't work, take it in the box and send it back. Yeah, Gen X mom.
Jackson Armstrong says, General, my first car was a 77 Nova 4-door straight 6. It was built like a tank, my birth year.
Yeah, I've had one of those, not a 4-door. I had a 78 straight 6. You get people that on those straight 6 engines back in the day, especially slant 6. Straight 6 and a slant 6, for though you old timers know the difference. People either loved them or hated them. There's no in between. Nobody ever goes, yeah, the Chevrolet 6, the Chevrolet slant 6. It's okay. No. Either it was the greatest engine ever built or you hated them. Yeah, Gen X mom.
Dave White on YouTube. Power Ram or Power Wagon? Make up your mind, genius.
Wow. Yeah, I did. I caught myself. I meant Power Wagon. Way to be nasty. What that person wasn't nice. Who was that?
Dave White.
Dave White. Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
I guess you can't make a mistake.
No, yeah. Thanks for Dave White. Everybody remember the name Dave White, because every now and then assholes come by and they're, make up your fucking mind, man. Power Ram or Power Wagon. You fucking genius. Now, is there any reason to be a dick? See, it's guys like you, Mr. Dave White, that are the problem with the country. You're just an asshole for no reason. We're just talking here. I've been drinking. Other people have been drinking. We're just having a good time. So if I missed that, don't take anything I say seriously. Everything I say is made up. It's all a lie. I wrote everything down an hour before the show. I typed my stories from someone else's life. None of this is even true. And you come along and want to correct me? Why? Have you ever made a mistake? Mr. Dave White, have you ever made a mistake? Do people jump your shit? Oh. That explains it.
He must have had a bad day at work.
A bad day? No. This is a dumbass this is the way he's been treated his whole life. His parents probably did it to him. His friends probably do it to him. And so any chance he gets, he tries to do the same thing to other people. Well, we got to put Dave White in a timeout.
Everybody's voting for the woodshed.
Yeah, he's going in the woodshed right now. Let's I pinned his comment. We don't want to pin his comment. We want to unpin his comment.
He just wrote back.
Yeah, well, let's see. Hold on. What did he write back?
He should be ousted.
Oh, did he have a dick? Did he say something even dickish? More dickish than that?
He's gone.
Okay, well, then he's out. He's gone from the whole channel. And we're done. So there goes Dave White. Just a dickish move and a dickish comment. I don't even know where his comment went.
It got deleted.
Oh, let's see here. Can you see that? No, don't. Yeah, I can't even see what it says.
It says you can view it.
I can't, though, for some reason.
Okay, well, it says, wow, you're the effing dick. I was just asking.
No, he's a dick. You shouldn't have been that way. You shouldn't have you can't say shit like that. Although I would have put him in a timeout. I wouldn't have deleted him out. I read it. You told me to kick him out. I probably wouldn't have kicked him out.
I think so.
I don't know. I don't even know. Can you unkick somebody?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah, you can unhide him. Yeah, I unhid him, but everyone else was right. He's got to go in a fucking timeout. He can go in timeout for a little while. Anyway, yeah, you just don't. And that's the typical mark of a bully. You think of your fucking mind, you genius, you dumbass. You made a mistake, and I'm going to tell you. And then when you call him out and you say, wow, you're kind of a dick. You're kind of an asshole. What do they always say? What does every one of these fake retards say. I was just fucking around with you. Why are you so sensitive? I was just making a joke. Why are you so... No, that's what you do when you get caught stepping on your dick. Right? When you get caught doing that, then you're like, oh, I don't know what the big deal is, but I just fucking... Or what's the other one they do? The other classic line from Dillholes, like that guy, like Dave White. Oh, well, I see I can get under your skin. I was just fucking around, but see, I can get under your skin. I'm living right here in your brain, rent free, and all those other cliches that people say that they try to make themselves sound smart. He's probably got a few of those.
Warrior.
What's that?
Keyboard warrior.
Keyboard warrior. Yeah, let's move on. So,
all right. So, Mr. Fatty has a 96 Chevy Blazer 4.3, runs hot in traffic when stopped, was thinking clutch fan went out. What do you think?
Yeah, clutch, well, cooling system is right. Clutch fan, make sure you have a shroud. People rip the shrouds off when you're kids. You think, I don't need this plastic shroud on my radiator. Yeah, you do. Because it's coned in and creates a Venturi effect. It really does help. I would say the clutch fan would be the first thing. Make sure you got a good shroud on there and then try it again. And it doesn't ever hurt to flush out your system. So try that.
NM, that's the name. Best transmission ever built.
A Japanese 4-cylinder stick transmission behind a 4-cylinder, a stick transmission from Japan. I got a story that I want to throw out. You just reminded me of that when you say you have an engine running hot. I came through Las Vegas. I was driving my grandparents. My grandparents wanted to go across the country. This is one of 3 trips I took across the country. This was with them. And I forget how old I had a license, and they had a Travette motorhome built on a Dodge 1-ton chassis. It had a big 440 in there, I think it was. Anyway, somehow during the trip, my grandpa kept very good care of his vehicles, but he had a stroke. So he had a cane and he couldn't use one of his arms. So he thought he would be safe driving across the country with me because he could talk me through anything that needed to be done. So my grandma and grandpa would take off, and there's a couple friends, his friends, that are traveling in motorhomes with us. So it was safety in numbers. And I remember coming across from Vegas. We were on our way home, almost home, back to Southern California. And we were coming across Las Vegas, and we were getting in towards Vegas, and the thing was just running hot. It had run fine all over the country. It was full of coolant, and we didn't think any thermostats had stuck or anything like that. Water pump wasn't leaking, so we're still full, but we just couldn't get the thing across that desert. It was just an incredibly hot summer day. I remember we stopped at the Hacienda back when the Hacienda was there. Went inside and had some lunch, and I remember walking around the casino, and I was way underage, but I remember my grandma. I said, "Hey, move away from Grandpa." And he had a cane, and he had one arm kind of, when you had a stroke, it couldn't move. And I put my arm under his, and I'm helping him around the casino, which means I could go right up to the slot machines and help him. And I remember my girl says, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, they're going to kick me off the floor here. But if I'm helping the old guy who's got the money, they're probably going to let me stay." And they did at the Hacienda. I was helping him with his coins and pulling the levers as long as I was helping my poor old rich grandpa put money into that Hacienda. They just let me stay there. That was funny. But that's not the point of the story. But I did do that. Of course, that was a story my grandma told for years. She goes, "You're never going to believe what he did. We were at the Hacienda." And she would tell that story. But we couldn't, my grandpa was worried that even though we were on the backside of Baker Grade, he was worried about going from Vegas down Highway 15, because there are some grades there, even on the backside of Baker Grade. And it's a little bit of work to get up to the top of Holler and Summit, and he was worried we weren't going to make it. And I'm young and stupid. I must have been maybe 17, maybe. And like I said, I had my license, so I knew I was over 16, and we're sitting there in the parking lot. He left had the hood open, and we'd already done all our stuff in the Hacienda. And he said, we got to find a way to cool this down. And my grandma had said something like, "Well, what if every few miles we dump water on the engine?" And Grandpa's like, "No, that's not going to help." But all of a sudden I thought of something, and I told everyone, get back in the camper. And it was a Dodge 1-ton chassis, but it had the truck front end. Let's be clear about the 1978, I think, and it had the truck front end. It wasn't a Class A. Really wasn't even I guess it would be a Class C, but it didn't have the van front end. It had the full Dodge nose front end, so a lot of room to work out there. So I was fiddling around under the hood, and we're driving along, and my grandpa's like, "Okay, what'd you do?" And I said, "Well, just wait a second. I'll tell you in a second." So we're driving along, and you leave Vegas, and it's pretty flat all the way to State Line. Out of the State Line, it starts climbing a little bit. And right as we started climbing, the temperature started coming up just a touch. And Grandpa's looking, he's sitting in the passenger seat, but he's looking over and he can see the temperature gauge. It's like the only one he could see there. And he goes, "Starting to get a little warm." I said, "I know, I think I got it." And I reached over to the side of the dash and he looks back at the gauge and the gauge is coming down. He goes, "What did you do?" I said, "Well, I might have broke one of your things out here, but here's what I did." I said, "On this particular Dodge, your windshield washer fluid is huge." And I carefully pulled out the rubber line that went all the way to spray the windows, and I took it out and pointed it at the front of the radiator so it would shoot down the front of right over the front of it would hit the front of the radiator and spray on the front of it. And I said, so I figured maybe that we could go down the road, and if it got hot, I could just keep hitting that, pull over and fill it up and see how long it lasts. And my grandpa looks out the window, and he looks back at me, and he looks out the window. He goes, "If this works, this will be the first time I thought you were worth a shit." So we actually did that. We drove home, and every now and then I'd stop and fill up this massive reservoir. And if it gets hot, I would just hit it, and it would hit the front of the radiator with all this water. It would help cool it down for a little bit, and it was just enough to keep us, out of the danger zone. We weren't close to the red, probably 3/4, but it would cool it down to halfway where it was supposed to be, and that's how we made it home. So true story. I did that when I was a young kid. That's one of the things that popped into my head. So now you guys know that. Anyway, back to the sheets with my lovely wife.
Evil Lair Projects and Builds, $20.
Thank you.
It's been a while. Great to see you. Still going strong. Super cool, man.
Far out. Thanks for the $20, man. I have a little whiskey, so that $20 is going to go to the Singapore Hooker Fund. So anybody who wants to support my Singapore Hooker Fund, go ahead and give money. Put that in the little thing. We'll read it out loud, and when I get enough money, mail order bride. She's on her way. Yeah.
Michael Dawson on Facebook. The Ponderosa, is that on Bonanza?
Yeah.
Did you say the Hacienda?
I said the Hacienda.
That's what I thought.
The Hacienda was one of the old hotels at the south end of the Strip. Gone now, and I think they left one of the streets named Hacienda for it. But the Ponderosa was part of Bonanza. That was a big spread of land in Bonanza outside of Carson City.
All right, Berkeley Brian, long paragraph here from Facebook. You know anything about small engines? Got a generator that the engine runs, but it won't produce electricity because someone shut it down under a load. A couple days after this, I tried to start it and it worked, but then it ran out of gas and shut down under a load, and now it doesn't power anything. I've never had a generator that freaked out if it ran out of gas or turned off under a load.
That's a big question. I do have a little experience with generators because when I worked on RVs for years, that was one thing. We had Onins and Generacs and Kohlers. We had to pull out the generators that ran these big RVs. So I did get some in that. There was a lot in there. Let me see. Nope, I don't have his thing up there, so I can't read. Let me see if I can scroll back. Was he on Facebook?
Yes. Or? Did you want me to read it?
Yeah, read it one more time.
Okay, stand by. He says, got a generator that the engine runs, but it won't produce electricity.
Okay, stop there. If your engine, you get two parts to a generator. One is the engine. It's either gas powered or propane powered usually. That runs and spins, and you can fire it up and hear it. But it has to spin the generator, the part that makes the electricity. And typically, there's two things that happen here. The electrical part has a regulator, a little swing arm. It's a regulator that speed. It's a little mechanical. It used to be. I don't know if they're electronic now, but a little mechanical arm went over to the carburetor of the generator, and when the electrical side was loading up and spinning lower, the rod would move and accelerate the engine. You follow? They just put it right to the linkage, and if the generator slowed down and the electric arm moved this way, the little rod was over there right to the carburetor, and it would raise the throttle and then spin back up, and everybody's making electricity. So there's one thing. Another one is obviously breakers. They do have output breakers built in. There's not just the 110 breakers when you're creating electricity for an outlet, but they will have small breakers in there, 12-volt breakers. If those trip, if those fuses blow, you got to replace those or trip them. Sometimes they're reset breakers before it will begin to make electricity. All right, what's next?
In that same paragraph?
Yeah, I just had you stop right there. And
okay, a couple days after this, I tried to start it and it worked, but then it ran out of gas and shut down under a load.
Now, did it run out of gas or did it shut down under a load? Those are two different things. If you're telling me it was carrying a load of electricity and it was working and it just ran out of gas, so what? It doesn't damage anything. You just ran out of gas. The generators will cut themselves off of producing electricity. You can't, it's very hard to start a generator while it's carrying a load, while it's trying to produce electricity. There's usually a cutoff on them that after the motor gets warmed up, after the motor gets spinning to the right speed, then the generator takes over. Now, you guys got to remember, it's been 15 years since I worked on these. There's probably some electronic controls that are different from when I worked on them, but the principles all have to be the same. What else?
Let's see. I've never had a generator that freaked out if it ran out of gas or turned off under a load. That's what he said.
And it shouldn't. It shouldn't. You should be able to shut everything or the fuses down on the electrical side and have the generator start up. And this is me just talking out of my ass because you didn't tell me what kind it was. Not that would make a huge difference, but if the engine's running and you didn't damage, there's no physical damage to the generator side, then the armature, the brushes, everything inside that makes the electricity is probably working just fine. What are the chances that something like that failed? Unless you tell me this is a Kohler generator or a Briggs and Stratton generator from 1953. Oh, excuse me, we might have a few issues to consider. But I'm assuming something relatively new, you're probably very close to having this work just fine. 2
people in here said brushes in the generator are smoked or windings in the armature burnt, possibly.
The 2 things I just said are probably okay. I just said the armatures and brushes are probably fine. I don't think I would disagree that shutting it down under a load 2 times, 4 times would damage them like that. Generators are so well protected about when they get down low and the amps are going up and it's trying to draw, they shut off. They shut off the electrical side. They're built to do that. Now, it could happen, but if you have a really old generator and this has been thousands of hours on it, then yeah, I'm with those guys. The windings, the armature, the brushes absolutely would be. That's why I said, unless you tell me it's an old generator with a lot of hours on it, then we might think something different. But if it's newer, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say I don't think that sounds likely. But what do I know? I'm just a dumb mechanic in the middle of the desert. Yeah, Gen X Mom.
Brad Baker, member for 24 months, finally got my Big Blue 2.
Brad Baker got his Big Blue 2. For those of you that are looking at YouTube, if you have a red 1 next to their name, that means they have been a paid subscribing member for 12 months. If they got their Big Blue 2, they are a paid subscribing member of Gen X Talks for 2 full years. We even have a group of members that are coming up on their 3rd year, believe it or not. Yeah.
He wrote, just had a great week of vacation with Kirsten. She drove from Palm Desert to Portland. I think she's going to be there in September for the barbecue. Keep up the great work, sir. Gen X Mom, stay beautiful. Thanks.
Oh, my God. Here we go. Yes, the Gen X Talks barbecue live in person at our home. You can buy tickets on the website. A couple bucks for the ticket. Show up. We spend a full half a day hanging out. Some people are coming in early because they're traveling, so there's actually some people that are allowed to come over a day before and hang out, help set up and get things ready. But it's a big event. We do it once a year. This is the last year it's going to be at this house because we're moving. We're going to move sometime next year. But if you want tickets to go, you want to be part of the Gen X Talks family, you want to hang out, there's going to be some music. There's going to be some food. There's a big swimming pool. We're going to play some music. Got the big bar, room for everybody to sit. And even if it's hot, we're going to have big cooling fans out there. You guys can take a tour inside the studio and here, sit down. It'll be a lot of fun, but you got to get a ticket to go. So some of your better moderators can put up the exact link to the page where the tickets. It shows directions. It shows the tickets. It shows the nearby hotels. There's nearby RV parks. It just lets you guys know it's a casual affair. It's a lot of fun. And we film a lot of things while you guys were here. So it'll be good for everybody.
Alrighty. J Red is new on YouTube. What's the best American truck? Also, gas or diesel? He's looking to buy one.
Well, I'm not a diesel guy. I know that there's a big preference for a lot of diesels, depending on what you want. So gas or diesel, I'm going to say is your preference. If you're hauling big, huge loads for 300,000 miles, you'd want to go diesel. If you want something that you got some power and you can do some stuff and you can do some towing, but you're diesel. I'm not a diesel guy, so I just went gas. I like that. I like gasoline, but that's just me. I don't think there's anything that's one preference or the other by design. There's a lot of problems with gas engines. There's a lot of problem with diesel engines, and there's a few that stand out as exceptionally good on both sides. When you ask what's the best American-made car, boy, you're asking for a shit ton of arguments. Well, you know that Chevrolet is built in Mexico. Now you can get a car built in America, but the parts are from all over the world, so they can't say it's American-made. You know, the tag actually says assembled in America, assembled in the United, because they know they can't really lie. And then you got parts that are in Mexico that are assembled in Mexico, and the truck's made in Mexico. And it goes on and on and on. I'll tell you the way I look at it. And here's what I tell people. And this basically comes down to people that argue with me about, let's say, Toyota. Let's say Toyota or General Motors. And I say, well, I just feel, first of all, I like GMC. I like GMC trucks a lot. And I've had Fords and I've had Dodges and I've had Chevys. And that is my personal preference is GMC. And I think I've always been a GMC fan to some degree, General Motors. And I've liked Ford Mustangs. I've owned a lot of Mustangs, and I've owned Barracudas. I mean, I get it. I spread the things around of what I like, but I do like GMC trucks. Now, the argument between, let's say a guy comes up, oh, Toyota's better. We can get 500,000 miles, and it's more reliable. It's more this. It's more. I say, fine. There's two things. One, I prefer a GMC, and number two, I like spending the money in America. Oh, you can't say that. Now, there's American factories for Toyota. There's American workers for a Toyota. You know, there's American dealerships for a Toyota. Yeah, I know. I heard it all. I get that. And that comes into play too. But the ultimate profit goes back to Japan. At the end of the day, it's a Japanese company. At the end of the day, all their dealerships, all their work, all their profits, all their sales, all their parts, all their service, the money it goes back to Japan. And people hate when I say, well, China owns most of General Motors. No, they don't. That's a lie. I looked into it. Well, there's foreign investors. You're paying the Saudis, because they have No. I look at it this way, because that's what everybody says. You just throw shit out there. You don't know if it's true or not. You don't even know if you heard it. You just like saying that because you sound smart. I actually did some homework on who the biggest investors are in General Motors. And you know who it turns out it is? General Motors. When you pay for a new truck, or you pay for service, or you buy parts, you participate in the General Motors process, the ultimate profit goes back to General Motors. Yes, we know that. But it pays the workers' pensions. Guys who retired in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Guys who've been on that line in Detroit that rely on us to continue to buy that product and participate in that distribution chain of money and supplies because their pension depends on it. Yeah. So that's one thing that I consider. That's one thing. I don't know. I don't necessarily like all the unions and all that stuff. There's some good and bad in that. But that's how my mindset works, how I'm making my decision. You guys do what you want. But that's how I feel about it. Yeah, Gen X Mom.
Somebody in here is going, hey, General, how the hell you doing, sir? Do you want to know who it is?
I'm scared to know. Why are you smiling?
Fried.
No fucking way.
Fried says, hey, General, how you doing, sir?
You know that banner up there? That banner up above the door in the studio? Fried sent that to me 3 years ago. 3 years. Hey, where the fuck have you been? I've been carrying this show without you for 3 fucking years now. Now you show up? Good. Your turn to take over. I'll disappear for 3 years.
He said, I started streaming myself on a different site and got partnered there, so I put all my attention there.
That is no damn excuse, man. I thought we had a connection. I thought we were buddies. Okay, here's one. You guys want to know why we're even called, I'm called the General, and we are the bottom of the glass nation, and we are a legion of extras, and you guys are extra, Generation X, so we're all extras, no E, just extra. We are a legion of X, that seemed to fit. We're the bottom of the glass nation when we drink on those shows. And then you guys named me the General because we're leading the Legion of X and on and on. How that came about was 3 nights in a row of shows where we were all drunk for 3 hours, these long shows. Fried was there. Fried started, and him and like 6 other people, and we're like, everyone was drunk, and someone said, oh, you guys are, I was, Allie from Boston, who was our first moderator, our first staff member. She was moderating that night. She goes, you guys are a cult. You guys are a cult. The way you guys are talking, you guys are all a cult. We're like, yeah, we're a cult. And then she goes, well, you got to have a name. And we're like, well, somebody said we were extras as a bunch of people. And someone goes, well, we're a Legion of X. And there was our cult, Legion. Well, you got to have a leader. Oh, yeah. And they came up with General X and all these other things. And finally, someone said, you're just the General. And I went, yeah, I'm the General. And then nothing, I didn't think much of it. And the next morning, there was all these emails and people going, man, we are a legion of extras, and you're the General. And I was drunk that, and I go, what the fuck are you guys talking about? I had to go back to the show, replay the show, and go, oh, yeah, look at that. And it was 3 nights in a row we did that, and Fried was right in the middle of all of it back then. Fried was one of the instigators in how we even got our names of what we're doing around here. So
Joey Uquerde's in here, and he goes, we were gone and said we need a leader.
Yeah, Joey was there too. Joey's one of the original guys way back when. There's not many that were here that long ago, but there's a few. Yeah. Fried was one. Kid Brother Joey's one too. Yeah.
Scott Royston, $10. Here's $10 to you, General, for just being handsome and just being you. Keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Thank you. I don't know, Scott, that I deserve the $10. I am devilishly handsome, but you got to remember when you look at this, I can turn this down, but I can't turn it off.
Oh, brother.
Thank you.
Brad Baker, $20. $20 for the whiskey fund or just some fun shenanigans. Your choice, sir.
Shenanigans. I choose shenanigans.
Obi, 5150, just had to replace the water pump in my Ford Edge at the dealer. Took 3 weeks and $4,500.
Whoa. What? I'm in.
Sorry. I know. What you're leading on a live stream.
Nuh-uh.
That's what you told your son not to do that.
I know.
You're breaking a rule.
I am.
Shame on you. So, what do you think of Obi?
My God. A water pump, $4,500. 3 weeks out. There are jobs that take a long time to do, that's for sure. But
you have a Kiki 7696. Big respect from Croatia.
From Croatia?
That's
far out. Appreciate that. Absolutely cool. That's going to stick in my mind forever. When somebody says something like that, I'll never forget that. Thank you for taking time to chime in too.
Let's see. What do I have here for you? Max Ming on Facebook. Did you settle on a new location yet, or are you still looking?
Well,
Max?
we put an offer in on some property in Dayton, Nevada. Now, you know how that goes. Escrow falls through. Things happen. We'll see. But I think we should get it. There's 2.5 acres in Dayton, Nevada. It's 23,000 people. It's just a few minutes from Carson City, and everything's in Carson City. It's about, from where our property is, about 40 minutes to Reno. So if you really want to go into town and do some stuff, we want to host some Gen X Talks events. It's a major airport. Everybody can fly there. A lot of people can get there. Pretty easy to get to Reno. If you don't do it in the wintertime, you do it in the summertime. Everybody can get there. And we can be back down in Vegas by noon. We can leave in the morning and be in Vegas by noon from Reno. So we can go down there and do events there. We can do events in Reno. It's a small town, which is what I'm looking for. I'm trying to get to a small location area. So that's what we're trying to do right now. But who knows? We'll see how it goes. It's a long road.
Alex Rogan on Facebook. Do you prefer music on vinyl or digital?
Yeah, vinyl completely. I know people say scratchy, and the needle you can actually hear. No matter how good of a needle you get, your pickup, and you can hear. And I go, that's part of the ambience of my era. That's just part of it. That is part of the experience. And you can wear out a record. You can wear out a needle. It does happen, and it does change the flavor of the music as it wears out. I don't care. You're not listening to it in its purest form. Fine. I think the artist who recorded it and myself as a listener, either one of us are in our purest form anymore. So it fits. Okay? Yeah.
Scott Royston gifted 5 Gen X Talks memberships to
Thank you, Scott.
John Spartan, Super Raider, Unheal Snippix, I think, Will Wick, and Mike.
So John Spartan, that's either a Halo reference or Demolition Man. But Super Raider?
Super Raider.
Is it like a Raiders fan?
Super Aider.
Okay.
Superator.
Okay. I thought you said Super Raider. And it's like, gonna have to ban you for a little bit, put you in the woodshed just on principle. I'm sorry. If you picked your name to be a Raiders fan, of all the names you could pick, you didn't have to go there. It's all right, but this one, he dodged a bullet. Here we go.
Joe Derrick, morning handsome general and always beautiful queen Gen X mom.
Thank you.
General, got the crank sensor figured out. Car's running like new again.
Far out, my man. Well done.
Ben Quesnel, $4.99 and did not allocate the funds.
Who?
Ben.
Quesnel.
Quesnel, sorry.
Do you know Georgia? Do you know Georgia Quesnel?
Oh, hey.
Class of 1986, Poly High School. Really wanted to thank her for that pizza she brought me when I was working at Grace Community Church in 1985. Didn't get back to her in time, and then lost her number. Been looking for her for about 45 years. So if you know Georgia Quesnel, let me know. We'll get together and I can thank her properly, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
OB 5150 clarified general, internal water pump. So had to take the timing chain off, valve covers off, serpentine belt too, and replace them with all new parts.
How genius is that they build water pumps behind the timing chain cover? I mean, that's just ridiculously dumb. There's no reason for that whatsoever. Just the dumbest thing ever. I swear, engineers must have a competition at every factory on who can build the most fucked up shit for mechanics to work on and for customers to pay for. It's like they try as hard as they can. You know, it's like they look at it and say, no, before we go to this car into production, I can still kind of see the starter. Let's move that exhaust a little bit over so you can't see the starter at all. And I think there's a competition at factories with engineers who design this shit. And I think whoever wins gets a week in the Bahamas with the company whore. That's how hard they're trying to fuck up cars.
The one that makes it the most difficult wins?
Yeah, if you make things the most fucked up, difficult for a mechanic, the most expensive for a customer, Ford has a company whore you can take her to the Bahamas for the week. I think it's a competition. I think it's a classroom of guys trying to fuck shit up on purpose.
How come you didn't win?
I'm not a designer. I'm the guy, I'm the mechanic, the one bitching. I'm the one who used to say, this is a true story too. I had a shop in Oregon for years, and one guy came through. He broke down with his car. He came through town. I forget what it was now. One of them was a Cadillac. Anyway, this guy comes in. We're talking at the counter, and his car's there in a tow truck. Something simple to fix and put him back on the road. But he was on vacationing, skiing or golfing or something in Central Oregon. And the guy told me he was an engineer, a designer at Chrysler.
Oh, gosh.
And I said, really? I said, you do realize I should kick the shit out of you on behalf of every mechanic in the world, you dumb motherfucker. That's the only time I've ever been around an engineer who actually told me the stuff that he designed, the stuff that he had a hand in. And he was part of the fucked up problem. No one's going to know what this is, but there was a Colt Vista wagon that had a 4-cylinder, a starter bolt you couldn't get to if you were an octopus. And I don't think he designed the start, but he was part of that team. I'm like, how'd you fucking do this? You know, what do? Do you just build the engine and the transmission and the axles and just leave and tell them, build the car around it? Who cares let's build the car around it? Because that's what it seems like. I didn't kick his ass. I didn't even get nasty with him, but I told him I should. Now, when is a mechanic ever going to have a chance to be around a design engineer that fucks this shit up where you can go, you're a fucked up individual. There's a lot wrong with you. And on behalf of American mechanics, fuck you. Yeah.
Firewood Art says a buddy had a Monza Had to pull the motor to change the back two spark plugs.
You know, Cadillac, and now I think there's even a Toyota product. The starter is under the intake manifold. You have to lift the top part of the engine off. There's the starter, replace it, and set the top part of the engine back down. No longer is it on the side of the motor with two bolts. No. Why would we keep things simple where they can breathe and not overheat and be easily accessible? Some genius said, we could hide this thing under the intake manifold. No one's going to get it there. Part of the problem is that they want you to go back to the dealer. Part of the problem is, and I've told you guys this before, we've talked about this because my friends still worked at the dealerships. They design. Let me give you a little backstory on that. This is happening right now with Ford and Chevy and Dodge for sure. Pay attention, or you're going to get lost. And I'm not going to out mechanic you with talk. You're going to get lost on what I'm talking about. Okay. So let's say I'm a mechanic and I work in an independent garage and we work on Chevys and Toyotas and Dodges and Fords and whatever comes to the door, and someone comes through and they have a power steering pump problem. I go to my toolbox, and Snap-on has a very big kit of power steering tools that help you disassemble and reassemble and work on pretty much all makes and models power steering. It's a universal kit. It fits everything. It works on everything, and there you go. So if a Ford comes in, I can put things together and do this. If a Chevy comes in, I can put things together and do this. So Ford and Chevy get to a point and say, you know what? We're going to build a really weird power steering pump. And it's not going to be, you can't fix it with your Snap-on kit. So you're going to have to buy the Snap-on kit plus something from us or something similar. And you're like, oh, that sucks, but okay. And then Chevy does it. Well, now I got to buy the Snap-on kit, the Ford, part of the Ford kit, and part of the Chevy kit. And Dodge, and Toyota, and Honda, and Nissan. Everybody does it. You're like, fuck, I can't afford that. You just made the Snap-on kit, plus I have to get, some Ford stuff, some Chevy stuff, some Dodge stuff, some Toyota stuff, some Honda stuff, just to work on, these 2019 cars. But Ford goes one step further and says, oh, well, I'm glad you bought the Ford piece over here, but that was just for this car. The trucks are different. And 4 cylinders and V6s are different in each car. So you're going to need 3 or 4 of these Ford tools to go along with your Snap-on one. And then Chevy goes, yeah, you're going to need 3 or 4 ours. And Dodge, 3 or 4 of Toyota, 3 or 4 of ours. Well, you can't do it. As an independent mechanic, I'm just talking about 1 year of 2019 working on the power steering. Let's just say, do you see the mindset here? Then they do that for water pumps. They do it for timing chains. They do it for braking systems. They make it so different on each one of their cars, you have to have different tools for each car. They don't care because they have a tool shed. They have a tool warehouse behind. It's usually a big room behind a chain link fence, and you just say, here's what job I need, and they give you the tool. You go do it. You put it away they're the dealer. But even if you could, in 2019, buy all 6 tools for Ford for the power steering, all 6 tools for the brakes, all 6 tools for the cooling system and the timing chain and the water pumps, all 6 tools for the transmission, all 6 tools for the special engine things you're going to need, which is a huge, insane amount of money. And then you do it for Chevy, and then you do it for Dodge, and then you do it for a Toyota, and you spend $300,000 in tools. In 2019, when 2020 comes around, they say, we're changing everything for 2020. You got to do it all over again. Now, I'm exaggerating my point quite a bit to tell you the story of what's going on. They are making things so complicated with tools that you have no choice but to bring it to the dealer. Or independent garages will eventually say, okay, we're an independent garage, but we're only going to work on Fords. After, Ford, we have to. Because you can't afford to keep up with the tools and the technology. It's very difficult to do. And eventually they'll say, okay, just Chevys, put the sign out front, we can afford, if we keep buying all the special tools, just Chevys. There's dealerships all over the country that are scouting out 50 acres of land because in the future, they are going to drive independent shops out of business. They're trying to anyway. It's just very difficult to do it. And it's a ways away because there's millions and millions of old cars running around that guys like me can still work on. So we're okay. But it's coming, and they're going to need these big dealerships with 80 mechanics filling up the bays because all the specialty things you're going to need, no one can afford. I think there's going to be a tool rental service. I think there will be a truck that goes around renting you the tools you need for the job, just like they sell you tools. I think there'll be a rental truck, many rental trucks that go around loaning tools, renting tools for these jobs so that independent garages can stay in business. But eventually, I believe, it'll wear out. It won't work. You'll break. You'll have to quit.
Matthew Cole said, don't forget about the scanners, too.
Yeah, the scanners are another thing that are, they have to give you access. But now I've seen a lot of TikTok videos, Facebook Reels, mechanics that they take the best aftermarket $10,000 piece of equipment, they plug it in. They have all the Chevrolet software. They have all the Chevrolet updates. They've paid Chevrolet for grant of access and pass keys to get in. And there are still areas that Chevrolet on their system says, we're not letting you in here. You're still, after the job's done, you're still going to bring this car to the dealership and get us to unlock it, pass it, sync it up, make sure the VIN numbers match and all the it just, the ultimate goal, they tried this about 10 years ago, believe it or not. I won't get into the story, but they tried to shut it down. We weren't, the dealerships, the factories were not going to give the information out. They said, no, it's our information. We're not giving you wiring schematics. Fuck you. We're not giving you our specifications on our Fords or our Chevys. Fuck you. Well, the garage keepers, there's a union. There's a lobbying group for independent garage keepers of America. And I didn't realize how powerful they were. But they went to Washington and lobbied and said, fuck off. You can't do this. And Congress passed a law that, look, you have to be able to give people the information to fix their own things. So they tried to do this already once and they got shut down. So they can't just withhold the information, but they can sure make it so expensive nobody can do it. I'm kind of glad I'm out of that business the way that's turning, but I have friends at dealerships that still work there that tell me they know that's what they're told. This is what we're doing. You're gonna get all these transmissions. They're never gonna go anywhere else because there's gonna be people that can't fix them. There was that guy Dave's Garage on YouTube. Super nice guy. I watch a lot of their stuff. Agree with everything I've seen him say so far. And he had a rear main seal. A front transmission seal. He pulled the transmission down, pulled the seal out, and went to the dealer and said, I just need this, and $20 or $30, give me a seal. And they said, we won't sell it to you. You have to buy the whole transmission. Yeah. Tens of thousands of dollars. We're not going to sell it to you. They won't let you open it up. They won't sell you the parts inside that break. Now, that's a lawsuit. That's already a class action lawsuit saying you can't do that. They won't. I think it was a Dodge. If I remember, it was a Dodge. They won't even sell you the seal if you have a leak. You have to go to the dealership and buy the whole thing. They won't even sell it over the counter. Yeah, true story. So if you can't get that seal over the counter, how can somebody make an aftermarket seal? They don't even have they don't buy the transmission and disassemble it and start making parts yourself. Good luck. That's hard. Yeah, Gen X Mom.
Hugh on YouTube, do you think the next thing will be specialized mechanics, like a heart doctor, mechanics that only work on water pumps or timing chains, etc.?
I don't know that it would go that way. My guess, and this is just a guess, my guess is that it would be something along the line of, like I said, a shop that just does Ford. Maybe you could keep up with the Ford equipment and the stuff you need and the Ford specifications and buy the Ford programs to do your work. We had to, when I had my shop, we had to pay $3,000 a year. And this was 10 years ago. We had to pay $3,000 a year just to have access to their systems at Ford. And then you had to pay per program that you were downloading because we had to update software and we had to pay for that on top of it. It almost prices you out of the game. It really does. You're almost getting up to dealership level pricing. And then why would people come to an independent? They would go to the dealership. So I think that's more likely. And I know I'm the only person on the planet who has brought up the idea of tool rental because that sounds stupid. It sounds ridiculous to have tool trucks driving around, loaning tools, renting tools, then they got to go pick them up, make sure they're not broken. I mean, it just sounds like not even a good business plan. But I'm telling you, with the handwriting on the wall, that may not be such a bad business plan at some point. I'm just saying. Right.
Teresa over on Facebook, they don't want the mom and pop shop to survive. I think it's why they're banning certain cars or going around trying to get all the old cars off the road.
Yeah, they're getting all the old cars off the road because you get more money. Let's say state of California, you get more money on registration for a new vehicle than an old one. So just make up some smog rules and the old one's gone. They got to buy a new one. All their revenue goes up. Doesn't that make sense? All the parts are more expensive on the newer cars than the older cars. For the most part, I know some dumbasses out there. I bought a hood ornament from a 1971 Torino and it was $500. Okay, for the most part. So they get more sales tax revenue off of the new car repairs than the old car repair. You see where that goes with that? It's all about money, especially like in the state of California. They could give a shit about everything else. I was advising some young men not too long ago. They said, if I'm going to get into cars, and with all the things that are changing on cars, I said, get into brakes and front end, wheels and tires, brakes and front end and steering. And they said, why? I said, because it doesn't matter if everything goes diesel. It doesn't matter if everything goes gas. It doesn't matter if everything goes electric. Hydrogen. What does it matter? You still have to drive on four wheels. You have to steer. You have to brake. So if you're doing steering and suspension, they're all going to have suspension. They're all going to have steering. They're all going to have wheels. They're all going to brake. It doesn't matter where the world takes cars and trucks. If you're the brake and suspension and steering and front end guy, you will have a job. That's what I advise them. I don't know if they'll do it or not. I was drunk. Who knows if I'm right? Yeah.
Mr. Fatty says, did you ever see the nylon-coated fuel lines on Ford Crown Victoria late 90s?
Nylon-coated?
Fuel lines.
Ford had some that were coated on the inside. Was it nylon or was it a neoprene? He
said, continues, I helped develop the tooling for making the upsets and barbs on the lines. I also consulted on the F-22 Raptor hydraulic lines.
Yeah, those were those were tough because when they first came out in our end, when they got to independent garages, you couldn't repair them. You had to buy the entire line and whatever it connected to and whatever it did all the way from the front of the car to the back of the car. Or wherever the factory connector was. Years later, they came out with kits that you could heat up. They were plastic repair kits. I've even got an old one and probably no good anymore. I've got one in my garage to this day where you can heat up and replace and rebarb those lines onto stuff. But boy, back in the day, you tried to fix it as a mechanic with a hose clamp and you were in trouble. And you couldn't. It was a very difficult thing to do. But yeah, I remember those vividly.
Justin Bennett, General, I have a dumb question. What is the best way to stop a window from squeaking while going up and down? Tried WD-40 already and it didn't work.
Depends on where you're putting the WD-40. If it's squeaking going up and down, pull the door panel off and lube up all the tracks on the regulator. There's a gear mechanism on the you'll see it. Just spray everything that moves. Okay, not the glass, but spray everything that moves, the metal parts that move. If it's still squeaking going up and down, then chances are the rubber inside of your tracks is either gone or super hard. And I've taken WD-40 and soaked those rubber tracks where the window goes, let the WD-40 absorb into those, and they do get quieter. But if it's squeaking from something mechanical and you're not going to replace it, then take the panel off where you can see the regulator and everything that's moving. Everything's a pivot point on there. Soak it. You might even want to use white grease instead of there's spray white grease instead of WD-40. Go down that road. See what it comes up to be.
Berkeley Brian's back.
Hey, what's happening, my man?
Love you guys' stuff. Generator guy again. It's a Predator 2000. It has 2 buttons, says reset plus a fuse, and an escape on-off switch. I'm old school and none of this crap have I ever seen.
Send me some pictures of that to genxdad@genxtalks.com. Send me some pictures on there. Let me look at it and see what it's doing.
Sammy, you got that? That's on Facebook.
That's on
Sammy.
Facebook. GenXDad at GenXTalks. I answer my own emails. You guys send me stuff all the time. It takes me a little bit to get through it, but we don't have people for that. I answer myself. You want to have some pictures and conversations, let me know.
Same person, Berkeley Brian on Facebook. Can I replace the spark plugs in a Versa? They are apparently inside the engine somewhere.
Difficult. I stumbled across a couple YouTube videos where mechanics that do that were making fun of the work you have to do.
All right. MK Lucy, have a 2003 Honda Odyssey, all original.
Yeah.
Is it worth keeping it, knowing it's going to start new things? We paid it off in 7 years, has 119,000 original miles.
Yeah, those don't have a great track record for longevity. In that era of vehicles, you're better off like with a Toyota Sienna, things like that. I ran into a lot of those that had transmission problems. I mean, tons. So if you got past that issue, if the transmission's been okay, and if you kept up on your regular maintenance on it, the engine should be okay. The engines last a long time. The other weak points in that aren't the build on the motor. It was the transmissions, and they were all-wheel drive also, and those were a nightmare too. Everybody always asked me that, and that was a question I hated getting asked as a mechanic. They'd come in and they'd say, well, I need my car looked at, and you're like, well, let's just say you need $2,000 worth of engine work, and they say, well, should I put the money into it or get something new? How do I answer that? I don't know. I have no idea, because I don't know what's going to break next on your car. I can look, but doesn't mean I'm going to spot everything. I can try. So I always had to tell people, don't ask me that. I said, okay, you're thinking about $2,000 worth of engine work, and the engine will probably last a lot longer once we're done. How does your transmission run? What do you mean? Well, how's your transmission? Does it shift correctly? Has it ever given you problems? Have you been staying up on your maintenance on your transmission? Or does it shift and cough in the morning and sputter, and after you spend $2,000 on your engine, you know you're going to have a transmission problem? How does it drive down the road? Do your tires wear out? Are they bald on the inside? Do they shake when you drive? How's your steering? How's your suspension? Do you bounce down the road like this? Does it stay straight? I mean, your car. Tell me how the rest of the car is. Some guy says, it's all those things are a problem. My windows don't go up and down. The electrical just shorts, and my headlights don't always work. I said, well, then don't spend any money on your engine. You have all these other problems either happening or just about to happen. Evaluate the car as the driver. Nobody knows it like you do. You drive it every day. If you think the car is sound in all the other areas and you have a repair over here, well, maybe consider spending the money on that repair. But if you know for a fact that there's other things going on, don't be mad at your mechanic when he fixes what you tell him to and 10 other things go wrong and there's $3,000 more to spend. You should have seen that coming. You got to have a little responsibility there as the driver. Yeah. Gen X Mom.
Blake 499 on YouTube. General, I have a quick clicking noise on my front suspension at both wheels when I slow down or accelerate. Thoughts? Control arm or tie rods?
He didn't say what kind of car it was, so that's a tough one. A clicking noise out of suspension. Yeah, clicking noises, if they're loud like that. Well, ball joints don't click, 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 click. They click when they center themselves forward, braking or accelerating. They'll usually give you a big click like that. But I mean, you'd have to tell me what you're talking about. My first thought is your brakes are loose, your pads are loose. They're not going to fall out, but if they didn't put the rattle clips in there, then they're moving around. That's what it sounds like, but you didn't tell me what kind of car it was either. So makes it a little bit on the tough side.
Top Knots rule on YouTube. Anyone ever hear of steam cleaning the inside of an engine?
How would you steam clean the inside of an engine? What the fuck are you talking about? Like taking off the oil pan and steaming it? I guess you could. That's a lot of work. There's other ways to do that, just so you know.
Michael Castle on Facebook. When I hit the gas on my 2014 Chevy Silverado and I get a little squeak, it is tiny, but happens when I touch the gas and goes away. Thoughts?
Sounds like a belt squeak. The first thing, it just sounds like a belt squeal. But, Take a bar of soap, run it around the belt, see if it goes away.
Brian Lopez on Facebook. Is there any easy way to fix a service immobilizer code for an '05 Chrysler Pacifica? I have one key and tried unhooking the battery for long periods of time, fixed a few grounds, but no luck.
Get a scanner. Take it to somebody who's got a scanner, because an immobilizer code can just be, he said it was an '05?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think on Chrysler Pacifica in '05, the immobilizer was part of the body control module. And if you can get into the body control module and clear the codes, it'll sync up with the other modules. It'll look at the engine controller, the transmission controller, ABS module. They all have to have the same VIN code on them. But once it sees that, then it takes off the immobilizer and restarts it. But you got to get in, I believe it's the body controller, but you got to get a scanner that goes in there and can clear the code. It'll also tell you if it's not seeing the key. It'll tell you what the problem is, why it's got you locked out. It'll say why. So get a good scanner, go buy somebody who's got one, and have them just plug it in for you. They'll give you a code. Pep Boys, I think, even scans those for free.
Random.
Well, that's about it. I do apologize for having a garage show not in the garage, but I got to be honest with you guys. The reason... It's guilt. It's absolute guilt. I'm just from an old school where when you say you're going to do something, you try as hard as you can to do it. And I knew we lost the studio for 24 hours, so we missed the show. I'm way behind on everything. We did 3 shows today, including this one. There's so much more work to be. People are still waiting for the podcast to come out. I'm behind on a ton of work, and I had a choice. I could either stay and do all the work getting caught up. For my wife and I could just pound stuff out and get it done and try to get caught up tonight and miss the garage show, or work as hard as we can, do the garage show, meet with you fine folks for an hour, and then get back and just stay up as late as we can and try to get it out and still be behind tomorrow. And I opted for being here with you guys. Number one, I like it. I like hanging out with you guys a ton. And it means a lot to me. But I also know that I can't just skip shows and miss shows. Oh, I'm sorry, couldn't make it, couldn't be there. Then you turn into a flake. So even though there was no garage, even though I couldn't do the tool things I wanted to do, I was going to make my presence known, answer questions, just hang out and talk with you guys, have a couple of drinks, and that's what I did. So for me, it was 100% worth it. Thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate you guys. You didn't have to spend an hour with us, but if you did, I'm glad you chose to waste your hour with Gen X Talks. Just think of all the things you got to hear. I didn't even get to my Japanese mechanic story where Mazda sent over Japanese technicians with translators, and that's a half-hour story. It was a lot of fun to hear that one. Remind me, and we'll do that one again next week, and hopefully next Friday we're in the garage. Gracie, is there anything else, or is it time for you to say goodnight?
It's time for me to say goodnight. Good night, Gracie.
There you go. She's gone. All right. Now that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Not sure where you're tuning in from around the planet, AM, FM, Sirius XM, or perhaps you tuned in on the Armed Service Radio Network. Remember 2 things. 1, wherever you go, remember that's where you are. And number 2, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.